Right now, 4 humans are farther from home than anyone alive has ever been. A cracked heat shield, invisible radiation, 40 minutes of total silence behind the far side of the moon, and a capsule the size of 2 minivans. This is Artemis 2, the most dangerous space mission in 53 years, and the story of how it got here is wilder than most people realize. December 1972, Apollo 17 splashes down in the Pacific. Gene Cernan climbs out of the capsule, the last human being to walk on the moon. He was 38 years old. He died in 2017 at the age of 82. An entire human lifetime passed between his footprints on the moon and anybody trying to go back. Think about that. In the gap between Apollo and Artemis, we invented the internet, the smartphone, social media, electric cars, and artificial intelligence. But we couldn't figure out how to send someone back to the moon. Not because we lost the technology, because we lost the will and the money and the political spine 400 kilometers up. For 5 decades, low Earth orbit was as far as anyone would go. The International Space Station. But the moon is 1,000 times farther. And then, on April 1st, 2026, actual April Fool's Day, 4 astronauts strapped into a capsule called Integrity sat on top of the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched and left Earth. Reed Wiseman, commander, Navy captain and test pilot. He's flown to the space station before, spent 165 days in orbit, walked in space twice. He also lost his wife Carol to cancer in 2020. Before this launch, Wiseman sat his 2 daughters down and walked them through his will, his trust documents. What happens if Dad doesn't come home? Victor Glover, pilot, another Navy captain and former FA-18 fighter pilot, flew the first operational SpaceX Crew Dragon mission. Now, he became the first person of color to leave Earth's gravitational pull. A father of 4, Christina Koch, mission specialist. She already holds the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman, 328 consecutive days. Before NASA, she survived a winter over at the South Pole Station in Antarctica. -79 degrees Celsius. Jeremy Hansen, mission specialist, Canadian Space Agency, former CF-18 fighter pilot. Grew up on a farm in Ontario. Now he has become the first non-American to travel into deep space ever. These 4 people are about to do something nobody has done in over half a century. But what most people don't know is what almost stopped this mission from happening at all. In December 2022, NASA flew Artemis 1, the uncrewed test flight. No humans aboard. Just instruments and a mannequin named Munikin Campos strapped into the commander's seat wearing sensors. Orion flew to the moon, looped around it, and came home. Splashdown looked perfect. Parachutes deployed. Capsule bobbed in the Pacific. Champagne corks flew at mission control. Then engineers opened the heat shield for inspection, and the celebration stopped. Over 100 locations where the ablative material, a substance called AV coat, designed to char and burn away in a controlled fashion, had cracked. Not worn, not eroded, cracked. Chunks ripped off in jagged, unpredictable patterns. 4 separation bolts embedded in the shield had partially melted through their thermal barriers, leaving deep gouges where controlled char marks should have been. The heat shield, the only thing between 4 human beings and 5,000-degree plasma, had failed its audition. The investigation took nearly 2 years, over 100 separate tests, and what they found was almost elegant in how terrifying it was. During Artemis 1, Orion used a technique called skip re-entry. The capsule dips into the atmosphere, bleeds off some speed, bounces back out into space, then re-enters a second time, like skipping a stone across a lake. The problem? That pause between atmospheric contacts let heat energy accumulate inside the AV coat without allowing it to ablate properly. Gases formed inside the material, pressure built, and the shield cracked from the inside out. Here's the part that should make your jaw drop. NASA's ground testing facilities had run the AV coat at higher heating rates, hotter, faster, more intense, and at those extremes the material performed perfectly. It was the moderate, sustained heating of the skip that broke it. They tested for the worst case. The worst case passed. The medium case, the one nobody worried about, failed. So what did NASA do for Artemis 2? They kept the same AV coat material, same heat shield, did not redesign it, did not replace it. Instead, they changed the trajectory. No more skip re-entry. Orion will come in steep. One continuous plunge from 40,000 kilometers per hour to splashdown. Faster deceleration, higher G-forces on the crew, but less time in the thermal zone that caused the cracking. The trade-off is brutal. A steeper entry means the crew feels more force crushing them into their seats during the most violent minutes of the mission. NASA calculated that the trade was worth it. The crew agreed. And that re-entry isn't just violent, it's something no human being has experienced at this speed ever. But we'll get to that. First, you need to understand what they're living through right now. The Orion capsule has 330 cubic feet of living space for 4 adults. NASA compares it to 2 minivans, but in 2 minivans, you can open a door. Here, the nearest exit leads to vacuum. The toilet sits under the floor near the main hatch. 5 cubic feet, a curtain for privacy. Christina Koch, who spent 328 days on the space station, fixed a malfunction in it shortly after launch. Food comes in pouches. A small hot plate warms some of it. A water dispenser rehydrates the freeze-dried meals. Jeremy Hansen packed maple products and salmon bites from Canada. Most meals are eaten at room temperature because the warmer can only heat one at a time. Sleep happens in hammock-like bags tethered to the walls. All 4 sleep simultaneously. No bedrooms, no doors, the constant hum of fans circulating oxygen, scrubbing carbon dioxide, and managing cabin temperature fills every second. Exercise, 30 minutes a day on a device called a flywheel, roughly the size of a carry-on suitcase. It provides resistance for squats, deadlifts, and rowing. On the space station, astronauts have exercise equipment weighing 4,000 pounds across 850 cubic feet. But on Orion, they get a small gadget. But here's what separates Orion from Apollo by a technological canyon. The Apollo guidance computer ran on 4 kilobytes of RAM. Your car key fob has more processing power. Orion carries redundant flight computers, autonomous navigation, and a system that genuinely did not exist until this mission: laser communication from crewed deep space. The 020 optical terminal uses near-infrared light to beam data from Orion to Earth at 260 megabits per second. That's fast enough for 4K video from the moon. In real time, Apollo transmitted voice that sounded like a phone call from inside a tin can. Artemis 2 transmits cinema. Orion also carries 6 radiation sensors placed throughout the cabin and personal dosimeters on every crew member. Because once you leave Earth's magnetic field, the rules change. Galactic cosmic rays, high-energy particles from exploding stars across the galaxy, pass straight through the spacecraft walls, straight through the crew's bodies. There is no material on this capsule that stops them completely, and if a solar particle event erupts, a burst of charged particles from the sun, the crew's shelter plan is this: empty the storage bays, stack the equipment against the least shielded walls, and huddle in the space near the toilet. That is the radiation shelter, bags of supplies and a bathroom curtain. April 6th, Orion passed behind the far side of the moon, and for approximately 40 minutes, the crew experienced something no living human has felt. Total communication blackout. No voice from Houston. No telemetry. No data link. The moon's mass physically blocks every radio signal. For 40 minutes, these 4 people are more alone than any human being on Earth has ever been. Apollo 8's crew described the far side of the moon as the most profound loneliness they'd ever experienced. Artemis 2 will go even farther, 4,700 miles beyond the moon's far side, 252,757 miles from Earth. That breaks the record set by Apollo 13, the farthest any humans have traveled from home. And at their most distant point, Earth fits behind an outstretched thumb. The return trip takes 4 to 5 days. The crew monitors systems, runs medical checks, and provides real-time feedback NASA has never been able to get before. How does the cabin smell after 7 days? Do the sleeping bags keep you still, or do you drift into the walls? These sound like small questions. They're not. For Artemis 3, the mission that lands humans on the moon, every single one of these answers determines whether people live or die on the surface. But the crew of Artemis 2 isn't thinking about Artemis 3 right now. They're thinking about re-entry, because re-entry is where this mission places its largest bet. Orion will hit Earth's atmosphere at 40,000 kilometers per hour, Mach 32 times the speed of sound. At that velocity, air molecules compress so violently in front of the capsule that they form a sheath of superheated plasma, reaching 2,760 degrees Celsius, roughly half the temperature of the surface of the Sun. The AV coat heat shield, the same material, the same shield that cracked in 100 places on Artemis 1, is supposed to absorb that heat and burn away in a controlled fashion. A few centimeters of resin-coated silica stand between the crew and incineration. On the other side of that material, the astronauts are supposed to feel comfortable cabin temperatures. That's the margin, that's the engineering, that's the bet. Inside the capsule, the forces build. First, a gentle tug backward, then a steady press, then crushing weight as deceleration climbs and their bodies become 3 times heavier than normal. Breathing takes effort. Arms won't lift. The windows glow orange, then white, as 40,000-degree plasma wraps around the hull. The capsule groans. RCS thrusters fire in sharp, metallic bangs, steering through the inferno. Then, communications blackout. The ionized plasma sheath blocks all radio signals. For several minutes, Mission Control in Houston hears nothing. No telemetry, no voice, no heartbeat data, just silence. Again, when the capsule slows below supersonic speeds, drogue parachutes deploy, yanking the spacecraft into a stable descent. Then 3 massive main chutes billow open above the Pacific. The capsule swings beneath them, descending toward the water near San Diego. Splashdown is hard. The capsule slams into the ocean surface and bobs in the swells. A Navy recovery team moves in. Divers hit the water. Flotation collars go on. The capsule is winched aboard. The hatch opens. 4 people breathe outdoor air for the first time in 10 days. Their legs buckle. Their balance is wrong. After 10 days in microgravity, even standing requires concentration. 685,000 miles. That's the total distance Artemis 2 is traveling as we speak. Every single astronaut on this crew has seen the photos of that cracked shield. They've sat through the briefings, they've asked the hard questions, and they decided to go anyway. Apollo proved we could reach the moon. The 53 years of silence proved something harder, that reaching isn't the same as returning, and returning isn't the same as staying. Artemis 2 doesn't land on the moon. It doesn't plant a flag. It doesn't collect a single rock. The door Artemis 2 opens is the one we slammed shut in 1972. The door we were too afraid, too broke, and too distracted to walk through for 53 years. And right now, 4 people are prying it back open with their bare hands inside a capsule the size of a family car, betting their lives that a heat shield holds and a set of parachutes opens and gravity does what the math says it will. We stopped going to the moon the year before the first cell phone call was made. We're going back in the age of artificial intelligence, and the distance between those 2 facts, between what we could do and what we chose not to, is the most human story the cosmos has ever told. We don't go because it's safe. We go because something in us refuses to stop at the horizon. And this time, we're not turning back. Astro Fable, signing out.